Meanwhile, Fox News alert on this, a strong warning to Syria from the United States. The State Department saying there are signs the Assad regime has used chemical weapons on its own people again, citing a chlorine gas attack last weekend, saying the U.S. will respond quickly if the attack is confirmed. Trey Inkst is live along Israel's northern border for us this morning. Hey, Trey.
Sandra, that's right. The Trump administration is reviewing new information to determine whether or not Syrian President Bashar al-Assad used chemical weapons in a recent round of attacks on Sunday across the country of Syria. We are getting new information indicating that these reports of an attack happened near the northern Syrian city of Idlib. Over the past few weeks, the Syrian regime has taken part in a major offensive against rebel forces in the area, killing at least 150 people and displacing hundreds of thousands more. If the chemical attack is confirmed, the U.S. State Department says there will be a quick and appropriate response. Over the past 2 years, the Trump administration has targeted Syria with Tomahawk missiles on 2 separate occasions, the president wanting to send a message to Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad that chemical weapon use will not be tolerated. The recent escalation in northern Syria follows a months-long ceasefire brokered by the Russians and Turkish governments. In September, that ceasefire was taking place. Moving forward, though, they are trying to implement a new one. Now, you can't hear the fear of voices of civilians who are now caught in the crossfire. One boy saying, "We were in Khan. We remained there for 2 weeks until we took our belongings and left to Al Abid. Then the helicopter bombed us with barrel bombs." Now, the last rebel stronghold is in Idlib, Syria. There are an estimated 3 million civilians there, and there is concern in the international community that if fighting breaks out there could be a large number of civilian casualties. Sandra?
Trey Inkst, thank you very much on the breaking news on that.
And we have a live look at Capitol Hill. That is where acting DHS Secretary Kevin McAleenan is testifying before the House Homeland Security Committee this morning. That hearing coming as the Customs and Border Patrol quarantines and halts admissions at what is the largest processing center in our country. That after a 16-year-old boy from Guatemala died after coming down with the flu. The White House urging Congress to act now.
This is exactly what the president's been talking about and exactly what he is trying to prevent. The president and his administration requested funding, supplemental funding, just 2 weeks ago to help with the humanitarian crisis at the border. Democrats have still failed to do that. Unfortunately, this problem is going to get worse before it gets better.
Joining us now, President of the National Border Patrol Council, Brandon Judd. Brandon, it's tragic that another young person has died, but is it an indication that there really is a potential health crisis down there? I mean, how bad is it?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'm working at that center right now. I'm scheduled to go in tonight for a midnight shift. We're seeing overcrowding like we've never seen before. And obviously, when you have overcrowding, you're holding people in custody for 6 days like this child was in our custody, without showers and without proper facilities, bedding facilities, and so on and so forth. You're going to have problems like this. And if we don't have Congress step up to give us the funding that we need, we're going to continue to see these issues arise, and we're going to continue to have serious tragedies while they're in our custody.
Who do you think dropped the ball on this? Is it the administration, or is it, as you say, Congress?
No, it's absolutely Congress. I mean, if you look at where we have to put these individuals, we just don't have the bed spaces to transfer them to ICE. ICE can't take them off of our hands because they don't have the bed spaces. We have to hold them in our custody for a lot longer than what we're supposed to be holding them in our custody. Now, there are certain things that the administration does need to be taken to task on, such as streamlining the processing. We've known that this has been an issue for quite a while. There are certain things that we can do, and frankly, DHS has been slow to react to that. Hopefully they'll react a little bit quicker now, but frankly it shouldn't have taken this tragedy to force them to react.
Now, you're going to go in tonight on your shift. What type of precautions are you taking, and the men and women that you serve with?
There's very little precautions that we can take. Unfortunately, we can put on ventilating masks, but that doesn't do a whole lot. There's just not a whole lot that we can do. We're put in these situations. We have to work under these conditions. There's just nothing that we can do. It's not like these individuals can cross the border illegally and we can just ignore that they cross. We have to take them into custody, and we have to put them in the facilities that we have. And unfortunately, those facilities are extremely overcrowded. It's just something that we have to deal with and hope for the the best.
And how widespread do you think are the illnesses and the diseases? Critics are saying, well, it's overblown. But there have been cases reported of mumps, of measles, of influenza, and diseases.
Yeah, it's not as widespread as what some people would have you to believe, but it's more widespread than it needs to be. I mean, we've had 5 deaths in our custody within the last year, and I realize that a couple of those deaths were actually when they were at the hospital, but those diseases started while they were in our custody. So 5 deaths essentially while they were in our custody, that's 5 too many. And so when you look at this, if you say that we're holding 2,500 people at the CPC, and 50 of them have some serious diseases, some people would say, well, that's a very small percentage. Most people would say that that's just not acceptable. And frankly, it's not acceptable, especially when if these diseases aren't detected the moment that they're brought into our processing facilities and they're not detected when we release them, then we're releasing these individuals into the American public with these diseases, and we don't know what's going to happen from there. Well,
we want you to, and all the men and women who serve with you, to take care, especially when you show up later on tonight, and certainly want this to be addressed. Brandon Judd, thanks so much for joining.